Alright, so now that we got our skeleton all set up, we're going to go ahead and go to the placement menu. Immediately you're going to notice right away that when you jump into the create the skeleton, it's going to give you this proxy geometry. This geometry is good for like if you're whoever's building the model, if the model's not complete or they're adding other things or doing whatever they got to do with their character. For people that are working in the blueprint that need to get stuff implemented, like they need to start making the guy, like, what's he going to do when he runs, what's he going to do when he attacks, or even if animators need to have something to work with. Because they have that skeleton already made, they can still base it off this proxy geometry. Technically, this proxy geometry is not the skeleton. It's the skeleton's there, but it's not visible just yet. So for now, we're going to go ahead and disable this proxy geometry. Let me go ahead and zoom into the characters. It's kind of, viewport's kind of weird right now, so let's go ahead and select our proxy geometry. Any part of the body will do. Just push F, and that'll frame up on the rig controls. Give us a little better navigation control. So let's go ahead and disable the proxy geometry. On the left hand side of this, you'll notice you have a physique mode, which we will not be using. That deals with proxy geometry as well. We'll go ahead and disable it so we can see our character and where all displacement's going to be. The way I like to look at this is these joints are your global movers. They will manipulate the direction in which these joints are going to be facing when they are officially made in the skeleton. You can select any of these movers and it will select the joint's pivot point or where that joint is. The offset, however, is a little bit different. If you select the offset, you can move these individually from everything else. But say, let's move this real quick. Let's go ahead and go to global and let's move the arm into place. Let's say the arm is going to be straight out. Well, something like the hand, well, it's like, well, we like the hand is, but like the hand's like an outstretched piece of a forearm. If we ended up selecting this global mover, or if we selected this forearm, it'll move everything down. But if we selected, oh, we want the hand to move only, we can select that hand joint, move it. But if you do it in offset mode and you move that forearm forward or off to the side just to get a better visual of what's going to happen, go back to global, you'll see it's back over here. But the problem is its pivot point is going to be its joint's going to be moved out here. So wherever you do this offsetting, it's going to change that joint position to a different location than what your global is going to be. So if you can help it, try to stay in global as much as you can. But if you have to move a joint individually or its pivot point, offset's going to kind of do that. So I'm going to go ahead and set this back, Control Z, just to get this arm back down to its default position, since that way we're ready to go ahead and go. Alright, everything's back where it needs to be. So let's go ahead and start scaling this character down. Back to perspective here. I like the size of this root control, this circle for the feet are near, but I want the rest of the body needs to come down. So we're going to need to scale this character to the same size as ours. So let me jump out of perspective mode and jump into the side view. Let me go ahead and zoom out. I can select any piece and just push F. Alright, I can already see she has a tail, but that's our skirt bones for our joint chains that we'll be moving around later. Let's go ahead and select the pelvic bone. We can't see the pelvis, so what I'll do is I'll go here to this box here, and this pretty much is like the core of your character. And this is going to be our pelvic bone right there. If we start manipulating, like moving it around, it'll move everything else, but it'll keep that root motion in place. And root motion is important for if you're starting to do stuff with montage, or your character does a rolling animation or jumping animation where like this global position moves. It'll take all the components in the engine, such as your camera, movement capsule, and everything else. It'll move it with it. But for now, let's go ahead and just scale this character down to be. I know it took a few minutes to get to that point, but I just wanted to make mention of everything else because it does kind of all tie together. Alright, so our character's pelvic bone's in place. I want to turn on the geometry lines. I want to see all the polylines too, so Every one of these viewports, I'm going to select this option here, the wireframe on shaded. Jump to side view so I can see this, wireframe on shaded, and the perspective, wireframe on shaded. And because I can still highlight her, which I don't want, I already put her in a layer. Let me go to channel box and layer editor. I already have her in a layer. If you need to make a layer of your character, just select wherever points of your character are, and you can always just select this button here, which will create a new layer with everything selected. But she's already got a layer, so I'm going to go ahead and put her on reference. And it's snap back in. I don't like doing that. I like to be able to see everything, because this whole open space is just emptiness, so I don't need to see all that. But now I can actually see the topology lines and edge flow, which is important, so I know where all the joints are going to need to be placed. So let's go ahead. We have our pelvic bone, which is, it's a little bit low, so let's go raise that up. And, alright, that's probably good. So for now, let's go ahead, and I like to work from the pelvic area down, so I'll go from the pelvis to the leg down to the foot, and from the pelvis up to the torso, and to the arms to the fingers. Let's go from the legs. Let's go ahead, and if I manipulate this, it's just going to be each individual one. I don't want that, so I want to manipulate everything. I want to do half the work. So the guy that made this, Jeremy Irons, I believe. If it's the wrong name, excuse me. I think it's Ernst. You got a symmetry button in here, so select that. And it will make sure that everything we do on this side is going to happen to the other. Let's go ahead and manipulate this into place. That's about where I want the leg to rotate. Whoa. And on the side view, we'll make sure we're fine where that placement is. Let's rotate a little bit forward. Okay. Let's go down to the lower leg. About the middle of the leg is where we want it to be. Let's rotate that forward. If we turn on our transparency settings, we can better see the actual joint local rotation axis in which these joints are going to be made. So this is going up the length of the leg is what we want. Turn on the transparency setting here too, so I can see what's going on. Alright, this foot's going to be way off, so we're going to need to manipulate this main foot control here. If you don't know if that's the actual global control for all these foot pieces, or even whatever piece you're going to be manipulating, if you actually selected the wrong side, you can easily just go back to this back arrow here on your character palette, and you can select these individual pieces. So right now that was the foot, this was the leg. This goes back up to the top leg. For instance, that goes down to the forearm, so on and so forth. So we'll go ahead and make sure we got the foot selected. Go to the front view, maximize that, and I want that to be right about there. Just go to the side view, manipulate this where we need to see it, and rotate a little bit. I had a hard time seeing what this is looking like in real time, so I'm going to go back to perspective. I'll stay in here for now. Let me go ahead and zoom in on that, or just F to frame it, so whatever I'm going to navigate around, I can actually just frame it on that foot and work from there. Go ahead and rotate this a little bit. I want it to follow down the length of the foot. And about the middle of the foot, it's where I want it to be, so we're good there. Now for these other controls, these controls are good for manipulating specific things. Like for instance, I still have the other file opened. I can show you what these 4 little spheres do. So if I place this one in the front corner of the toe, that'll manipulate everything from the toe roll forward, such as this one needing to be the opposite of where the front is, so that needs to be on the back of the heel. And if I jump back to the rig that was created by one of our teachers at the school, LA Film School, Dan Fisk, he made the same kind of controls as to what, let me jump back to the other file with the art kit. What these controls do is the same thing that he set up for these ones, where you have heel lift. Let me push F to go back in there. Yeah, I'm having a hard time navigating because of that. Let me go Alt. Real quick, let me rotate this up. And then I will push Alt Home. Alright, now I can better show you what's going on. Okay. So, for that little sphere that was in the back, it's going to be giving you controls such as this, is heel lift. That sphere that was in the front would give you controls such as that. Well, that would be still the sphere in the back, but bank is also the same controls. I think that don't give you. I know toe twist is what those spheres do as well. It's kind of similarities. So let me jump back to the arc since that's what we're focused on here. So for these ones, let's go ahead and move these on the side of the foot. Usually I like to do it where the foot's going to start concaving in from where it comes out. And our foot control, I believe, is set up. Let's jump to the front to make sure we are just about flat on the ground. Alright, foot's complete, leg is done. So, let's go ahead and I go to the side view and try to work on this chest piece because I want to see where all these spine bones go. But I got the arm that's in the way. I just will not be able to see what's going on. Let's go ahead and move that arm up out of the way. So in perspective view, I'm going to select this clavicle control. I'm just going to go to my rotate manipulator with the E key, and I want to rotate those up, get them out of the way for now. It's definitely in the wrong place, but we're going to come back to them in a minute. Let me go back to the side view here, and I want to move these chest pieces, but I don't want to select the manipulators. I want to select the actual piece here so I know which tool I'm selecting. So move that. That's fine, and this one. This is also another reason why I go from the directions that I do. The pelvis is usually one of the most important ones to move because it affects everything above and below. Okay, so now that our spine pieces are in place, I want to go ahead and I can already see one of our extra attribute joints we made is sitting right here in the middle of the chest. If I select that joint, you can already tell that's our hood jiggle bone. You can't see it on here, but we'd have to go to our outliner. On our outliner tab from the picker tab that we saved, we go click on outliner and we go down to joint mover. It'll bring up all of our hierarchy of all of our bones, and we already know we have one leaf bone. That was our jaw that we made. There's our jiggle joint. There's our hood mover. It would still if I didn't have it selected and I clicked this, it would go right to your hood. So let's go ahead and move our hood into place now, since I know it's going to be right there where the hood is. Our leaf joint, I already know it's going to be part of the head, but I'm going to do that after I move the head. Now our custom chains, there's all our skirt joints. Let's go back to the picker. And we need to start working on that clavicle in the arm. I won't be doing the individual fingers because once you start, it's going to be the same exact process of just making sure you follow the edge flow and moving all the joints into place according to the character's model. Let's push F to frame. And let's go ahead and manipulate this to where I think clavicle would be sitting. I'm going to move that down a bit. I'm having a hard time seeing where these manipulators are going, so I want to go ahead and turn on this transparency setting here. And I'm going to go right about there because I still I want this manipulator to be pointing towards this edge of where the shoulder is going to go because it's going to connect into the shoulder. We just have to rotate the arm upwards. Okay, clavicle's fine. Let's go ahead and go to our arm. Let's rotate that on up. Move this to the socket area of where the arm connects to the chest. Move that. We should be fine if we go to the top view. The top view is a little out of place. Alright, so let's not even use top view. This is another reason why I usually throw the top view over in this one because I'm usually only on this one most of the time if I have to go to this top pane. These two panes I always like to see next to each other so I can see what's going on. Go to perspective view. I can already tell this is way out of place. So from the clavicle, since we didn't do any major adjusting, we move that clavicle forward a little bit. And there we go. Arm's looking pretty good. Let's go ahead and move that elbow. I want the elbow definitely be pointed in that direction where it's at right now because this place has more topology than the rest, so to allow for deformation to look more natural. Alright, for this hand, I don't want the wrist to rotate right there. I want to move that wrist a little bit back so it has a little bit more flexibility. You can even tell from the topology flow they gave me a couple edge loops there. I'll move that wrist over so it's in the center of the hand. And it would be the same exact process you would go through for everything you did in the arms and legs for the fingers. So for now, let's go ahead and focus on getting that head into place and moving that jaw joint where it needs to go. Let's go ahead and go up to our head box up here and you can select our neck. If you want to test and make sure where your head's going to rotate, what it's going to look like, you can just manipulate it from the neck joint there. Let's go ahead and move that down. Select the head. I always like the head bone to be about right about the lobe of the ear. And we can't select our jaw joint here. We can see our jaw joint, or a leaf joint that we made right there as well. So we'll select that and I'll move it to the edge of the jaw. Because it's parented to the head joint, it's gonna it should just rotate from there, or you can rotate it freely. But because this is more of an in-game model, we're not going to be using that joint that much. Alright, and we have our skirt that we need to move into place for our joints. Let me turn that off so it's kind of hard to see where I'm going to need to place all the skirt joints. Can't select any of them here. I know the root's in there somewhere. So let me go down to the custom chains and let me open up the skirt rear right. I already know it's going to have to be on this side. These ones do not have symmetry, so we'll have to manually do these ourselves. Let me turn on. I think I'll rotate these by hand, all of them. Move that out. It's the rear, so we're almost put this one in place. And I'll fine tune these, but I'm not going to do it in the video. I'll let you guys experiment. So we don't need the skirt no more. We got the main root in place. Let's move the left front. I believe these chains can be dynamically driven in the engine. So like for something like we have for if you guys ever seen the fight montage video, the guy that's got the big old cloak hanging down from him like that's nothing but joint chains all over him. So those things can dynamically move where they need to go and do what they got to do while playing in the engine in real time. This is the right front. Rotate that out a little bit so I can see him. And left rear. Last one. Alright. I do want these to be up here because it's going to be, the skirt's going to deform from the main pelvic area. So I would move these, I would better fine tune these and not on the video, but I will do them off the video. So when we come back, all these joints will be where they need to will go where they should be, and this character will be ready for the deformation setup.